Welcome back to the Bloom Room. My name is Chantel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the fifth universal law of rhythm. One of, if not the most bestest laws to use for manifestation, because it just really goes deep into a whole mindset shift, a whole different way of viewing your life. So let's just get right into it. Law of rhythm in the Kabbalion states that everything flows in and out. Everything has its tides. The pendulum swing manifests in all things. The measure of the swing to the left is the measure of the swing to the right. And rhythm compensates. When they say the pendulum swing, Hermeticists are referring to the universal energies because they compare universal energies to a pendulum. So we know that everything vibrates and moves to certain rhythms. And these rhythms are what goes to establish, seasons, cycles, stages of development, patterns of nature. It governs our economy, our health, our spirituality. It kind of governs all things. So law of rhythm is stating that everything comes back around. Things come and go. Universe always balances out. There's always a reaction for an action. There's always an advance and then a retreat. There's always a rising and a sinking. It manifests in the change of the seasons, the fact it goes from summer to winter, from winter to summer, the fact that it goes from day to night, night to day. And so, rhythm manifests constantly in the physical realm. And law of rhythm is stating that there is no absolute cessation or stopping of movement. The tides of life flow in and out always. So the Hermetic masters, when going deeper into this law, realized that there were two planes of general consciousness, a lower plane and a higher plane. And in them realizing that there is a higher plane, it then enabled them to be able to polarize themselves on the higher plane and thus avoid the negative consequences which only occur on the lower plane. Up here, they won't affect you. The negative swing of the pendulum doesn't affect you on the conscious mental plane. It only affects you on the unconscious. Everything I just said is basically called the law of neutralization. And the law of neutralization is the way that we can master this law of rhythm and find self-mastery, essentially. We can now operate up here. So law of neutralization says, raise your ego, polarize yourself on the higher planes of consciousness instead of the lower planes of unconsciousness, aka be aware. And essentially the negative backswing of the pendulum essentially just sweeps right under you because you have risen above. I find it so interesting that the Hermeticists use the term ego when they say raise your ego, because in modern, Western spirituality, we kind of view the ego as something to transcend. And the Hermeticists basically are saying the opposite. They're saying, no, you're going to raise your ego. We're not leaving that shit behind, but we're going to raise our ego, our idea of ourself, up here on this plane of consciousness. And then with this awareness, which is basically consciousness, we will no longer be affected by what used to affect us. We'll go more into law of neutralization, but basically this law states, polarize yourself at your desired vibration and let the bullshit sweep under you. If you really just think about this law, let's think about how law of rhythm manifests in ourselves and how we've allowed it to sway us in our own lives. For example, periods of high energy are often followed by periods of depression. Periods of abundance are often followed by periods of loss. Moods of courage, strength are often followed by moods of fear. So as we can see, the tides rise and fall within all of us. Law of correspondence states, as without, so within. These energies are moving with us. They are happening within us, and they are in our control to let affect us or not. An understanding of this law is really key to opening your mind because it's calling you to become aware on a way more conscious level. And once you really understand this law, implement it in your life, which does take discipline, But once you do, you'll know yourself, you'll know what's happening, and you'll be less likely to be carried away by these tides. And so I just want it to be known that our will is stronger than the manifestation of this law. So that is why we're able to escape its effects using the law of neutralization. And another law I'm going to talk about, the law itself can never be destroyed. It will never cease to exist, even if we cease to experience, the negative side effects of it. It's always happening. And that's just how strong our will and our consciousness is. So the pendulum will always swing, but we can escape being carried with it. All right, Hermeticists also believed in something called law of compensation. And when we use compensation in this context, we're meaning to counterbalance. That's why in the quote of the Kabbalion, it states, the measure of the swing to the left is a measure of the swing to the right. Rhythm compensates. It means rhythm counterbalances. It always keeps everything in perfect divine order. So law of compensation states that the swing in one direction, whether negative or positive, is what determines the swing in the opposite direction. Simply put, you can think of it as when we throw something in the air, it has the same distance to go down as it did to go up. That's what law of compensation is reiterating. The law of compensation is manifested constantly on the physical plane, just like the law of rhythm. But Hermeticists took it a step further to say our mental states are subject to the law of compensation as well. So basically, they believe the capacity for pain and pleasure in each individual are balanced. Someone who enjoys intensely will also suffer intensely. Someone who doesn't feel as passionately is likely to suffer less intensely. The Hermetists also believe that before one is able to experience a certain degree of pleasure, they must have swung as far toward its opposite. So basically, I love this little idea the Hermeticists believed in that says, before you can experience the best of the best, you're going to have to experience its polar opposite. And, law of polarity states that, in each thing holds its opposite. So by us experiencing the worst of the worst lies in it the potential and the possibility and the expectation. You should have the expectation to experience the best of the best. They also believe that the negative holds precedent to the positive. And so it's not like when you're feeling good, when you're feeling pleasure, that you're going to have to pay for it energetically. They actually believe that the pleasure you experience is the rhythmic swing for a degree of pain that you felt in this lifetime or a past lifetime. So when you're feeling good, it's basically karma, life balancing out pain that you have felt. So don't think that feeling good means that you're going to have to give something up. The feeling good means that, you deserve this feeling good because you fucking been through it. So now we're going to talk about using this law to manifest your higher self and basically how to use this law to your advantage. So basically we know that we're going to use the law of neutralization to basically transcend the negative aspects of our experience. By raising the ego to the higher plane of consciousness, you are essentially, what it looks like in the physical is that you are not allowing yourself to be swayed heavily to either side. You're not allowing yourself to swing too far to the right or too far to the left. Neutralization seems like this kind of thing where you just ignore the negative and deny its influence over you. And in a way it is, but it's also on this opposite end of the spectrum. When something good does happen to you, when everything you wanted is coming to you, you're not going to get all excited and giddy, and your energy is not going to change. Your energy is going to stay balanced. So that's a major key in manifesting. It's ironic that the hard part of life is to think positive and to, trick our minds to be positive. But in this case, the harder part might be keeping your internal energy calm, whether negative or positive, because sometimes things can happen and they can shake us like dun 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 and really have us like tweaking. Like sometimes we really need to take a step back and realize I do deserve this 100%. And when something great happens to you, you're going to meet that situation, that circumstance with feelings of course this is happening. I manifested all of this and I put in the work. I knew it was coming. It's kind of easy to have the blind faith and be like, I know this is coming to me. But when it happens, you got to have the confidence and the intuition to know this is what I've been asking for. And of course it's coming to me, like it's law. So one way that the law of rhythm manifests physically in our body is through our breath. The rise and fall of our chest, the inhale, exhale is symbolic of basically everything in the universe. And so when you find yourself, finding it difficult to stay balanced, then you're going to want to go back to your breath always. I cannot stress this enough. The breath is free, it's easy, it's instantaneous, and it is something that is so underrated. And I'm going to be the one to make it known that the difference between life and death is breath. So focus on your breath when you feel overwhelmed, when you might feel too far on one side of the spectrum. Come back to your breath. Take a deep one in, deep one out, and just keep doing it over and over, sis. Because when you're tuned in with your breath, the more and more you are, you're going to have more and more inner body awareness. And what is inner body awareness? It's energy awareness. And when you have that, it's so easy to catch when you're slipping, when you're leaning too far to one side, when you're not being neutral and holding your ego to a higher plane of consciousness. Another thing that is huge for law of rhythm is detachment. If you really want to master this law, you're going to have to master law of detachment. You're going to have to master detachment in all its forms. This is so important because when you find yourself at a peak, we tend to fall and then get depressed and then be like, oh my God, always, or like, you know what I mean? When we tend to fall, it looks to us like as a decrease, whether that be we getting sick, it looks like a decrease in health, or it looks like a loss. You have to look at it different. Because we know from law of rhythm that when you're at the peak, you know what's coming next. And it's not like expect the worst, but it's like stay aware of how life really works and don't get so trapped in your mind and in your ego that you're like, oh my God, look at all this terrible shit happening to me. You know that times of high are followed by times of low. And it's just like the universe is on a roller coaster always. So don't expect the worst, but be aware of the law of rhythm when things are happening to you and you are feeling out of whack. You know the tides come and recede. You need to know how to let go when it's time, whether that be physically, mentally, anything. You have to know how to stay in a detached point of view from everything in your life, everything you're manifesting, haven't manifested yet. It has to be a certain degree of detachment. So another important thing about this law is your reactions. Like I said, don't view anything as a decrease in health. Don't view anything as a loss or as anything being wrong with you. Next time something happens to you, when you go from high to low or anything of that sort, you need to look at it as a period of rest. And this is what I mean by law of rhythm is the best law for manifestation because it requires a complete mindset shift. You have to look at it different. And with law of rhythm, it makes it easy because you know you're looking at the bigger picture. So shift your mindset, that's for sure, and watch your reactions. Watch how you react to things. Raise your ego with the law of neutralization and don't react. Get used to things ever changing around you because that is the nature of reality. Viewing something as an illness or something going wrong, it just adds more stress to your body. So polarize your mind and keep that mental strength. So neutralization is basically possible with two things: our willpower, which is so strong, and raising our ego, which is raising our understanding of ourself. And polarize yourself to thoughts of accomplishment, abundance. Polarize yourself where you want to be and let that bullshit swing under you. Bye. After a certain point of suffering, we can honestly choose that, this is not my preferred method of learning anymore. Sometimes you can let that shit swing under. Sometimes it'll knock you off your rockers. But sometimes all you got to do is raise up and let things pass by. Rise above what is happening to you is basically what this law is telling you. And understand that your perception of life, of situations, of everything changes based on your understanding of yourself and your situation. Mind power is everything. Mastering this law takes fucking willpower, discipline, and focus, mental focus out of this world. But it's very possible, like I said, not to eradicate the law, but to escape its negative properties And this does definitely not go to say that if you can use your focus and your willpower that you can escape consequences of the negative things you're doing. It's saying quite the opposite. It's saying that the universe always compensates. And while this law can be somewhat unsettling, it can be also very contenting, because it's just like bad things happen, good things happen. The universe honestly is an unexplainable, understandable, I guess you'd say, inexplicable work of art. And it's honestly something I can't even begin to understand. Do you see how fucking mind blown I just got thinking about the universe for 2 seconds? It's so crazy. Anywho, yeah, this is the law of rhythm. Now you know how to use it. Now you know how it works. So now you know how to be successful. Every successful person knows and understands that you're going to fail before you succeed, and that there comes losses with wins and wins with losses, and that everything is like this. Like all fucking intertwined, but in the like neatest way possible. Like everything just fits. That's so cute. I love you guys so much. I hope that I'm helping you all. And just know that you guys are helping me. Like I said, we're a community, and all the support, all the love is mind-blowing. I can't even talk about it clearly, but thank you guys for watching. Everyone have a blessed week, and I love you guys so much, and have a blessed day. Happy spring. Hallelujah.